Did you make $1 million by then, or?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. That $1 million, we'll come back to that too, because no. I mean, I remember taking a shower outside and going to the.
Hi, James.
Hello.
Nice to meet you again.
Nice to meet you too as well.
I mean, we live very close by.
Yes.
And we work very close by. But I think I mentioned to you in Atlanta when we had a conference that I only get to see you when we're really away from LA.
Yes.
A lot of times. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Normally it's somewhere in the Midwest or East Coast, right?
Yeah. Remember first time I met you was in Reno, actually.
Oh.
Maybe like 6 years ago.
Yes.
When they had a NAFTA conference.
Yes, NAFTA conference. Yes.
Yeah, and then you were there. I was a brand new DSO at the time.
Yes.
Yeah. So I met you there, and I met you at Indianapolis for Lilly conference.
Yes.
And the Atlanta ATS conference.
Yes.
But a few weeks ago was the first time I met you actually here in LA area.
Yes.
So, and you've been to our school before?
No, this is
first time?
This is my first time.
Oh, I'll have to show you around
afterwards. I'm like, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
That's amazing.
Yes.
You've been working at GMU, Grace Mission University.
Yes.
And I've been to the church, but
yes.
I don't think I've ever been to the school. I don't know how. Is it inside the church or?
Well, the church is quite large. So they have the older building.
Oh, okay.
And then they have the newer facilities.
I see.
So the church mainly uses the newer facilities.
Okay.
But in the older building, third and fourth floor is where GMU uses.
I see.
Yeah.
I think last time I was there, Grace Mission Church was hosting a World Mission Conference.
Yes. I think that was a couple years ago.
That's a new building.
That's a new building.
Oh, okay,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, just tell me about yourself. What is your nickname?
What's my nickname? Oh my goodness.
That's an icebreaker, man.
Oh, okay. Wow, that brings about a lot. I had a lot of nicknames.
Really?
My Korean nickname was 고슴도치.
고슴도치.
So porcupine. So if you look at my hair, I've often had short hair, and it always looks like a porcupine.
Oh, since you're pretty young, huh?
Pretty young. Okay. So Korean people called me 고슴도치. But actually, American people would call me, people who spoke English would call me porcupine. So,
really?
yeah.
So you're born in Korea or born here?
Born in the U.S.
In the U.S. So you're like second generation.
Yes.
Not even like 1.9 or 1.8.
It's interesting, I consider myself a full two, but as I've been in the past decade, I've worked in a Korean seminary and working in Korean churches. What I realized it's not simply the generations, but where do you work?
Yeah, correct.
Who do you interact with?
Correct.
Yeah.
And your Korean is pretty good. Yeah. Because I thought, even I know some second-gen Koreans who came here when first grade, second grade, they couldn't speak any Korean.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're just pretty good.
10 years at a Korean seminary doing translation and on and off, and being married to my wife and my mother-in-law and father-in-law. Those things sort of push you to learn Korean more.
So your wife is more of a 1.5?
Yes. She came when she was 17.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So pretty late.
Okay.
And it's interesting, nowadays sometimes I feel more comfortable talking in Korean.
Wow, really?
Well, not necessarily like whole like conversations, but certain expressions. Much easier to say in Korean.
Yeah. So at home, when you were talking with your wife, is it like half and half?
It's about probably 80-90% English, but 10%
Korean.
Yeah.
Where were you born?
So we met in Atlanta.
Yes.
I actually was born about 30 minutes outside of Atlanta.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, because I lived in Atlanta for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my dad went to University of Georgia.
UGA.
Athens.
Okay.
So that's where I was born.
You know what? I went to college at Georgia Tech.
Okay.
So we're rivals.
Rivals. Yes, I was born. See why I was born a bulldog.
And I became a yellow jacket.
You became a yellow jacket, yeah. But I really don't know anything other than I was born a bulldog.
Okay, okay.
But then, like football, Georgia's pretty good nowadays.
Yeah.
So that's always there in the back of my mind. Yeah.
But Georgia Tech used to be really good. Heisman, he's actually a Georgia Tech coach. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Heisman Trophy, right?
Yeah.
I forgot his first name, but Heisman, he used to be a Georgia Tech football coach a long time ago. Yeah.
Okay. But see, I left Georgia when I was like 1 year old.
Okay.
So I have no
idea.
No memory.
Okay.
So beyond that, I lived in California most of my life.
Okay.
Southern California, a couple of years in San Diego. So my dad, he studied at Georgia. And then he did his postdoc at UCSD in San Diego.
Okay.
And then he decided to become a pastor. And then we moved up to Northern California. At that
So you're a PK.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you went to school in San Diego or in LA area?
Actually, Northern California.
Northern California.
So, like, first 3-4 years of my life, I was in San Diego.
Okay.
So I have some small memories of that.
Okay.
But then, once I became kindergarten, first grade, I moved to Northern California.
Okay, like San Francisco Bay Area.
Actually, so we lived in one of the richest areas in the United States. It's called Sausalito.
Been there?
Yeah, because Golden Gate Seminary. Golden Gate Baptist Theological Seminary.
Okay.
So we lived on campus.
Okay, I see.
While a couple years we lived on campus.
Okay.
And so I did that up to, I think, third grade.
Okay.
Third grade. And then third grade, my dad moved to Oakland.
Okay.
And so I grew up in Oakland most of my life, all the way through high school.
And where did you go for college?
UCLA.
UCLA.
Yeah. I wanted to go to Cal.
Yeah.
But then, I didn't get in. So I went to UCLA.
What did you study at UCLA?
Civil engineering.
Oh, you're an engineer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to be an architect.
Okay.
Later on, we'll talk about that. But my life has come full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you decided to go to seminary. So what caused you to go into engineer to ministry? That's a pretty radical change.
Actually, I never was an engineer at that point, but I worked. I'll start with a little bit of my testimony.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Nice.
And I forgot my testimony until I was 39.
Okay.
So, now it's a critical part of who I am.
Okay.
When I was 17, I was baptized when I was 5 because I'm a PK, right?
Okay, yes.
But then I didn't really understand faith and faith development. So at 17 years old, I recommitted.
Okay.
Recommitted my life. For some of who are really old, Bill Gothard, Institute of Youth Conflicts.
Okay.
I went to a big event held at the Oakland Coliseum where the Warriors used to play.
Yes.
On the back of my license, I wrote just this: I recommit my life to you, God. But in that time, I actually went to another revival meeting.
Okay.
And it was a missionary. He says, if you're called, you need to follow God. And I'm actually not a good Christian.
Okay. At the time, I guess.
No, even now, I say that tongue in cheek because I find myself like Jacob. I negotiate with God.
I mean, we all do.
Yeah, we all do. But, and so this was my negotiation.
Okay.
So when I was 17, the missionary called and said, "Let's go to the mission field."
Oh, okay.
And so I said, "Yes, God, but." And the but was, there's 3 conditions. God, I will, but the first part of my life, I want to do what I want to do.
Okay.
And I had 3 conditions. Number 1 was I would do whatever I think to advance my life, and I'll change at 40.
Okay. And you were in college?
No, I was 17 years old.
Oh, 17?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I was college. That was my freshman year in college. Okay. And then the second thing was I need to make. The reason why I wanted to do it at 40 was I need to make my first $1 million. Okay. And that's all of us, especially PKs. You know, what my friend calls we have financial trauma. Financial trauma. And then the third thing was I'd go anywhere except for Africa.
Okay.
So that was my negotiation. And then that came back when I was 38, 39.
I see.
I totally forgot about that.
Okay, I see.
During that, from 17 to 39, so 22 years, right?
Yes.
And then God sort of reminded me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you went to seminary at 39, I guess.
No. Actually, so the funny thing is, the way I decided to go to ministry, I was working at Union Pacific Railroad.
Oh,
I
wow.
was a ramp supervisor.
Okay.
So, you know, those trains that go out and those big loads. So even coming here, you see those big 40-footers with chassis.
Yes.
That was my job.
Okay.
My job was in the computer to assign them and then assign them to the train and then have the workers tell them you need to take that load, find that with that number, 4 letters. Usually it's 4 letters and then 6 numbers. Find the container, put that on the train, and then so I put together the trains, 2 or 3 trains every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it basically railroad never closes. So I was working pretty much through every holiday, and then at one point, you know, like I said, I wanted to work real hard. So I was working 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week at that point. I mean, railroad, I was working 17, 18-hour days. Wow. Because when the train comes in, when there's disasters, you just have to work. You just keep working. But it was good. You know, I was making good money. But then I remember it was, I think it was Thanksgiving. It was the day of Thanksgiving because railroad never closes. So the ramp was everyone's gone. We finished their job, and I was shutting down. And then I was at the ramp probably 2 in the morning. And then I heard this voice just saying, James, what do you want? And there was 2 choices. Do you want money or do you want people? And at that point I said, money comes and goes. It's relationship with people. And at that point, God slowly moved me away from simply making money to actually thinking about what does it look like to be involved with people's lives. So that's the beginning point.
Wow, amazing.
So I had worked at the railroad for about 2.5, 3 years. And then at that point I said, okay, there needs to be a switch in my life. But I didn't go to seminary. I didn't. Actually, what I did do was I went back to Korea. At that point, I spoke no Korean. I was sort of like anti-Korean. I was ashamed of Korea.
So was that the first time you went? You've been there before?
I went when I was like 10, 12 years old because my grandfather had a stroke. And so this was, okay, I had never seen my grandfather, and they said, go see him before he passes away, before he gets really old. So I went there when I was young, but I was traumatized. You know, you go there late 70s, early 80s, come from the U.S.
Yeah, it was not like today, huh?
No. I mean, I remember taking a shower outside and going to the outhouse as a bathroom. And how dark it was, how scared, especially when you're a kid. And so that traumatized me. And already, you know, growing up in the United States, back in the 70s, anything that was Korean was foreign, right? And everyone made fun of it, and they were like, ew, what do you eat, and all that stuff. So all that negativity was in me.
Okay.
And so when I decided, I said, I need to know who I am. I need to go find my roots. And so that's why I went to Korea. I taught English in Korea for about a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay. Wow. So, and then you came and then you went to seminary, I guess.
Yes. Actually, it was in Korea because I was teaching English at a Christian preschool at a church.
Oh.
And then during that time, the pastor took me under his wings. We went on a couple mission trips. I did the Korean thing. I went to early morning prayer. Oh my goodness. I mean, I went to early morning prayer. Okay. And I getting up like 4 in the morning.
Yeah. That's one of the trademarks of the Korean church.
Yes, going 4 in the morning, but then because the church was about an hour away from where I lived.
Oh, wow!
So you have to take the 지하철. You have to take the subway from there, then get out in the middle of winter, cold. And then at that moment, I remember I was walking out of the subway, and going to where the church was. Just walking down the main road, and you'd see all these people, especially Seoul. You're talking about in the mid-90s. They were walking by, and then God was just placing on my heart and saying, do you know if this person on the left and right are saved? And I didn't know, so just like fast and pray for this just praying. And then God's opened my heart. And so at that point, the pastor said, I think, go to seminary.
Okay.
Here's the funny thing. Okay, at that point, I was choosing seminaries, and then there was a couple, young adult friends, and we said one of the promises we made was, I will meet you in Kenya. Okay, we'll come back to that. So we're talking about.
But you said no African before.
Yeah. So God's moving in me, but you understand, I forgot about my negotiations until I was 38, 39.
Okay.
So that was there because actually, even though I didn't want to be a missionary in Africa, one of my dreams growing up was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. Okay. You read all the books and Lion King and all that stuff, right? And I was like, that's something I want to do. And so I never wanted to be a missionary in Africa, but I wanted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro and go on a safari, right? So I did that, and then in that place, God led me, said, don't go to seminary in Korea, go to seminary in the United States. So that's when I came back, I think it was 96. I came back and started at Talbot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, did you make $1 million by then, or?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Close to it?
No. I was making good money in Korea. I was charging like maybe $300-400 an hour.
Wow.
So I was making good money. I didn't work a lot, but I was making good money. And so that $1 million, we'll come back to that too, because it's when you learning how to trust God, just listening to His voice and understanding your own limitations, and then learning how to say, okay, God, and allowing Him to be who He is in my life and in all of our lives. And so I was like 26 then, I think, when I was came back from Korea, and then I started seminary at Talbot, worked hard. Well, I didn't say study hard. I volunteered a lot of different organizations and involved with different places, and saying, more important than going to school is, listening to God's voice and following Him. And I was dirt poor. I was.
How many seminary students?
But see, I promised God I wouldn't work.
Okay.
Because of early on my trauma, and then I decided I'm gonna work real hard. So when I was working like crazy.
Yes.
And then I realized, God, do I trust money or do I trust you? And then at that point, it was. I realized I trust money. I trust my hands more than I trust you, God. So the first year of seminary was, no, I'm going to study, I'm going to listen to your voice. So that first year of seminary was really eye-opening, transformative, and moving. And actually, by the second year, I decided to take a vow of poverty.
Oh, wow.
So I went from wanting to make $1 million to taking a vow of poverty, right? So God, at that point, homelessness. I worked with this group called, I don't know what's in English, 거리교회.
Okay. church in the street, I
Yeah,
guess?
street church.
The
So
street
I
church,
worked.
yeah.
So there's a couple classes,
Okay.
and so I worked with them and drove the van and serving meals downtown, things that.
wow.
And then at one point for one of my projects was I was a little crazy, so I actually slept one night. I had to sleep on the streets.
Street, okay, to experience, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was too scared, so I slept in my car.
I see.
But even sleeping in my car, I realized the fear that was in me.
Yeah.
That experience changed me. And realized, sometimes what we think, you don't know what people go through until you actually live in their shoes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. God calls you to experience a lot of different things.
Oh,
wow. That's amazing.
Yes. So many different. It's sometimes I joke with people, and people who know other aspects of my life go, yeah, you can make a Korean drama out of your life. And I go, absolutely. God has put so many different experiences in my life.
Yeah, I'm hearing this. Wow. Wow. And then you also work at the top or Biola.
Yes, because it took me like 7 years to graduate Talbot. Because I took the slow pace, and I didn't pass a few classes, so I had to retake them. And but what they noticed was that I worked well with first generation Koreans.
Okay.
And I would edit their papers, and
so your experience in Korea really helped you connect with the first generation.
Yes.
That's nice. Okay.
So that experience in Korea made me appreciate first generation Koreans.
Okay.
Up to that point, I was like totally Americanized, did not speak. Actually, the fact that I married a Korean woman, my dad's church and all my friends were amazed because they did not recognize me, because I was primarily interested in Chinese or American girls.
Okay.
And so that was the first time actually second time, but Korean.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But during that time, and so actually when I was at my last year at Talbot, I got married right 1 year before, and my wife said, you need to get a job, because I was working at a Korean church as a 전도사님, right? And I was making $600 a month.
Yeah. I guess that's typical at the time.
Even that's still a little bit low.
Okay.
And so my wife just pushed me when we were dating. She goes, no, that's not good enough. So I went up to $800.
Okay.
$800. You remember, I took the vow of poverty. So for me, it's sort of like, that's a lot. I can get by.
But you're married now, so.
Yeah. So that's when I took a job. I applied, and I became the international admissions counselor for Talbot. That was my first experience as a DSO.
Oh, so you were a DSO at the Talbot?
At Biola, yes.
Oh, Biola.
So I signed all the I-20s for 3 years at Biola.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, it's very interesting that as a second generation Korean American, then you went back to Korea.
Yes.
You were there for a couple of years?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Experiencing the Korean culture and getting the appreciation of the first generation.
Yes.
Coming back and working at a Korean church, and also, eventually at Korean Seminary.
Yes.
How was your transition? I mean, because I would imagine, because we had some 1.5 students. Teachers, try some second generation teachers, but didn't gel well a lot of times. So you are kind of special breed, I think. Yeah.
No, I won't say I'm a special breed. It's special experience. Special experience.
Okay.
So life's not all positive. So actually, when I was in Korea, wow, I'm sharing this. This is
secret?
No, this is personal. It's part of my life, but it's I don't share it often.
Okay.
So I was engaged in Korea.
Oh, okay.
And I broke off the engagement.
Okay, I see.
And wow, I felt so much shame. I felt so much. Who am I? Am I really a man? And I was broken, and like, okay, I come back. God, I want to serve you, but man, this is horrible. And then coming back home and spending time with my dad. To that, I didn't have the greatest relationship with my dad. I had, at one point, to give an example, when I was in college, I thought he was not a Christian.
Oh, even though he's a pastor?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was part of my formative. So when I came to UCLA, I was very fundamental. And I questioned my dad. He's like, is he, well, I won't question his faith, but the way he's running church, I don't think he's running church the right way. And then at one point, I got into a fight with my dad. My dad at one point says, if you play that type of music, you know, King Jesus is all right.
Yeah, I know the song.
Yeah, but think of that song back in the 90s for a conservative Korean church, right? Playing guitar.
I was supposed to say, yeah.
My dad said, don't play that and get out of here. That's not Christian music.
Oh, wow.
And so I had this big fight with my dad, and then coming back and seeing his heart and his openness that broke me. And so I think that's where a lot of healing came.
Okay.
So it's not me, it's my relationship with my dad. The brokenness, early brokenness, the challenges, and the things I was, you know, the negotiation with God was because of my dad.
Yes.
You know, the way he raised us.
I see.
And how poor we were. And that anger, and then when I came back, after I came back from Korea, that started the process. And some classes at Talbot really helped, like Personal Foundation of Ministry helped some, and then a lot of my intercultural studies classes helped a lot, and then I was able to unpack everything. And at that point, it became less of what's wrong with them, but rather I'm not comfortable with that, their style of faith, but I appreciate it. And then, like I said, when I was in Korea, I went to Sebukido. So I experienced Korean. So I went from being very American to, there's other terms when you talk about cultural things. Go native. I went native. Became fully Korean. And then part of the reason I broke off engagement was I realized I can't be that either. I need to be fully who I am, not simply just a Korean James. But I need to be everything that God made me to be. And so the process of coming back, starting Talbot, being involved, that helped me grow a lot. So my appreciation of first generation, not that I agreed with them, I had a lot of disagreements. I still have a lot of disagreements. But my level of appreciation and understanding, and how much I see God has worked through and I think more and more, it's realizing it's not because I try that I succeed. Even these big ministries, it's not about individuals. It's God works in spite of us.
I think that's a great point because you know how Korean immigrant church, a lot of second gen, first gen conflicts, and I think that comes out of misunderstanding or not trying to understand other perspective. But if you have that basic decision to try to understand, I think that helps. That's a starting point, I think.
Yes, actually. So this is, we met. I have my PhD now. That's all by God's grace. All by God's grace. But my dissertation was about the challenge between first and second generation, and how to resolve it. And what I really personally experience is I go to my dad's church, and I know
Is he still ministering?
No, he passed away. But he had planted or helped plant more than 30 to 50 churches in the San Francisco Bay Area. So all the Baptist Hube, all the younger pastors, they were all mentored by my dad, or many of them were, or came out of my dad's church. And so I had known them since they were in college. I was a kid, but I had known them. And so I'd go into these meetings with first generation pastors. And they would say, man, we want to empower the second generation, and they're trying to do everything. But, and it wasn't just talk. They really wanted to do so. But then I go to the to second generation, you know, in Talbot and talk with all the second generation pastors, and they're talking about all the complaints. They don't want to empower us about and what's wrong? They're power hungry. There's all these conflicts, right?
Yeah.
Then I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. I'm in both spaces. I hear this over here. They want to empower, and they don't feel empowered. What's going on? And that's why I started a PhD program.
Oh, okay.
Try to answer that question. And basically, it came down, it's misunderstanding. And misunderstanding in the sense that we use the same language, but what that means behind the language is opposite.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. And I think it's not only in KM, EM culture. It's a different. You know, I was a missionary to Philippines for 7 years, but when I have certain expectation when I go there.
Yes.
And they have certain expectation.
Yes.
I mean, it's a good expectation, but you match. Why is that person acting that way? And then you get, maybe you interpret it in your own cultural context.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's misunderstanding, and it's just fascinating. And when we know that, then we'll be trying to figure those things out.
Actually, just for the audience, Ruben was sharing that the audience, you guys are not just Korean Americans, you're all over the world. And actually, I discovered that.
Okay.
So, you know, we thought this is only a first, second generation Korean thing.
Yeah.
What I realized, it's not just first, second generation Korean thing. It is first and second generation Chinese, first and second generation Japanese, and actually not just Asian. It's now since I work with Africa, it's first and second generation Kenyan American, right? And so what I now describe it is generational migrant experience. And even nowadays, like we come into the 21st century, it is generational issues, cultural generational issues, and the miscommunication that occurs.
Yeah.
Even today.
Yeah, so it's a universal issue.
Yes.
And then you mentioned Chinese. So you work with the Chinese church also.
Yes, so that's sort of backstory. Because growing up in Oakland, Korean churches were not as strong. Chinese churches were much more stronger.
In Oakland?
Yes, in Oakland, or the San Francisco Bay Area, right?
Okay.
And so I actually had many more Chinese friends.
Oh, okay.
And then even when I went to UCLA, I went to 2 Bible studies. I went to a Korean Bible study and the Asian American Bible study.
Okay, like Asian American Bible study was a lot of Chinese, I guess.
Yes. Okay. And so remember I told you at the beginning, I was not interested in Korean girls. I was interested in...
I'm thinking, okay, so, where did they come from?
Okay, no, because coming up to the Bay Area. And then, but that's funny because, I mean, when I went to Talbot, one of my best friends, he was Chinese.
Okay.
Everyone thought he was Korean, but we hung out. And so at one point he says, James, after I stepped down from Korean church, he said, James, come to my church and let's serve together. I said, you know, we promised each other we'd serve together, so we did that.
Okay.
And then he left and I stayed there for 10 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So, working in a Korean American church and Chinese, well, how was the transition? I don't know if it's a transition, but what was a lot of similarity, maybe some difference?
No. Lots of differences.
Lots of differences?
Lots of differences.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. It's also an age thing. I think I had a little more experience when I was in the Chinese church. And it's a smaller church.
Okay.
So I think what I've learned to do is appreciate each culture. The challenges of each culture, but also the beauty of each culture.
Yeah.
So in Korean, the Chong, right?
Yeah.
Koreans don't think Chinese have Chong.
Yeah. They do.
Oh,
yeah.
My goodness. Even now, I talk with the pastor and I say, can I do this with church members, even though I left the church? He said, no, go ahead. So I have this trust relationship with the church. So I still interact with the church members.
Yeah. In Korean churches,
Once you leave,
that's it. Okay, okay.
It's harder. The boundaries are much more.
I know.
Yeah.
They might be a little bit suspicious,
Yeah, but actually, my Korean church, I'm able to go back.
Okay.
But I haven't gone back in a while. But the Chinese church, it was much more. Closeness I had with them was much deeper.
I see.
Yeah,
I see. Yeah, as I'm a 1.5 generation, so I see both first generation, second generation, and I was also missionary.
Yeah,
and a lot of times, I feel like, the generational difference is basically, correct me if I'm wrong, a cultural difference.
It is.
Okay.
But we just had a seminar, and one pastor in Dallas sent a video about generational issues.
Oh, I see.
And it was so funny. It was all in Korean. It's like about the young generation. Oh, they A, B, C, D. They're bad. They they don't study. They're lazy. All the normal things, right?
Okay.
And then at the end it says those statements were made in 1300s.
Okay.
And basically saying this idea of
it's ancient,
this concept of the next generation of miscommunication, it goes back. It's just human. I think it's human weakness. We are all selfish.
Wow. Yeah. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And learn to ask questions like this generational things.
And then thinking that, my way is better than your way.
Yes. And God changing. So the past few years, I have to continually erase that from my vocabulary.
Okay.
Actively say, no, that's not it.
Okay.
So there's verses that God said, no, the earth is the Lord and everything that's in it.
Okay.
And God is the God of Alpha and Omega. He's not just Alpha. He is present, omnipresent through all time.
Yeah.
That means this next generation is not more ungodly. It's what I say is it's equally ungodly.
Yeah.
So, but those when you have to retrain yourself to have those filters, that changes how you deal with the next generation.
Yeah. And I think it's true that first generation wants to reach out or grab or whatever, control or whatever.
No, I don't think that. I disagree.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's the first generation. It's just whoever is in power authority tends to do that more.
Okay.
So it's not a first generation thing. It is whoever is in authority tends to find ways to maintain that authority.
Yeah.
Because I don't like to use that first generation because it gives a negative picture.
I see. So, I guess one party is trying to hold up power, other party wants to kind of get away.
Yeah.
So what would you advise them to reconcile, come together? I mean, I don't know if there's an
actually
answer.
No, I don't think there's one answer, but it's telling stories, dialogue. So, I wish I could share with all of you because you guys only see what I say. You don't see what's in my mind. So, what's in my mind? We tell stories. When I think about, since now I'm older, right? It's my generation that's criticizing the next generations, right? Then I remember. So this is what I do: is I often tell stories when I talk about these things. It's remember when you were 10, 12, 14, 15 years old. Remember what the old people said about you.
Okay.
And realize it's no different.
Yeah.
And so I tell stories.
Okay.
I think the more we tell stories, and stories to tell not what's wrong with you, but stories of this is how God worked in my life.
Oh, I see.
If every generation talks about this is how God is working in my life.
Yeah.
And not just in the positives, but in the challenges.
Okay.
And the more we do that, then it's not about you or me.
Okay.
It's about how God works.
Yeah. And that's a common denominator. God works in everyone's life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then when you hear the story, I guess you begin to understand where they're coming from.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. It's more appreciation.
Yes, yes.
And the way I put it, or I often say is, this is what I do with my dad. I go, if I was raised in my dad's generation with the family that he was raised, would I be better or worse than my dad? More often than not, my answer is, I would be worse. Then I should show grace.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes it's like, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
But when I have this attitude, it changes, because I go, if I was raised like my grandfather who kept on hitting my dad and saying, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Or, you know, if I was raised in that generation, I would be like my dad.
Yeah.
I think that helps.
Okay.
And then helps me go, okay, it helps me understand. And for me, it's not just looking up, it's looking down. It's, if I don't know how to deal with my dad, I don't know how to deal with my son.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. So did you ever climb the Mount Kilimanjaro?
No, that's still a thing.
You used to have that bucket list, huh?
That's still my bucket list.
But you went to Kenya, right?
Not yet? No, actually, I just came back. Last Friday. So just a couple days ago, I came back. But I've been in Kenya for the past 15 years.
Oh, I see.
But see, that's God's miracle thing.
Okay.
Because my promise or the negotiation with God, right? Fast forward from that to when I was 39. I was working at Biola. And in the School of Intercultural Studies, so we had missionaries come to intensive courses at Biola.
Yes.
And at one point, one of the missionaries in Kenya said, I couldn't find housing. James, you're the administrator. Can you find housing? I go, absolutely. I have extra room in my house. I want to use my house.
Okay.
And so he came to our house.
Okay.
And she was so tired, she slept 24 hours.
Wow.
And next day she woke up and interacted, and she came out. My wife was totally surprised because she's Korean.
Yeah.
I never told her she was Korean.
Okay.
So I just said a missionary in Africa.
So she was like expecting, African.
She was expecting an African person, right?
Yeah.
But it was a Korean person. Long story short, my sister and over a year, my sister said, James, we need to go see that ministry. And so it was because of my sister, I was kicking and screaming because I was serving in a Korean church in LA. So you have no free time.
Yeah.
And I was working at Biola and doing that, so I really had no free time.
Okay.
And so it was a God thing that I went to Kenya.
Okay.
But then at that point, God reminded me and go, James, what was your promise to me?
Yeah.
And it was three things. Those three things.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Number one, how old are you? Oh, you're turning 40.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you've been serving me in the church, but no, have you been following me? And that's the transformation. It's not just simply going to church. It's not simply being a pastor. It is, are you listening to the voice of God? And despite what it seems like, just continually following after God's voice in everything. And from that point on to now, I'd say my life pre-40 to now, from 40 to 55, God's been really expanding, challenging me, and bringing so many different experiences in my life. And I'm still the same person, but But number two, my wife's a businesswoman.
Okay.
So at that point, it was, wow, we do have $1 million. Well, business.
Not from you, from you.
For my wife.
Wow, how God works in strange ways.
So it's like, James, I'm going to fulfill your remember I said, despite you, when you're young, you're working 70, 80 hours, but you didn't make that money. But you know what? You took a vow, I took a vow of poverty. And yet, then I'm like, I said, this is blowing my mind. Because I'm trying to, no, I made this promise. No, James. It's not about your promise. Are you following me? And then the third part was, I'd go anywhere except for
Africa.
And God says, that's my joke.
That's funny, huh?
Yeah, because you didn't want to go to Africa because you're thinking about potential suffering, and oh, can you live in the bush?
Yeah, mosquitoes
with no plumbing, and remember. When I was traumatized.
Going Korea.
And so I was like, but then when I went to Kenya, it wasn't like that.
Okay.
And then even now, I just wrestling with God this year was, I'm a missionary. But it's not the same type, like tradition, what people think. It is, I'm creating opportunities for people to see God and get closer to God. And the way I do it is totally different. That's another podcast. Because we can go.
So you're involved with the ministry in Africa since then, going back and forth.
Yes, I was involved with the children's home and that missionaries. She has a school. So I connected the rich and poor people in Africa together. With middle-class people in the United States.
Awesome.
So it's like bringing
awesome.
To help them create dialogue. So I worked with the children's home, the orphanage in Kenya, as well as the rich people in Kenya, or middle class in Kenya, and then middle class here, and we did this. So I did that for a decade. And the last 5 years, God's repositioning myself. So for the next podcast, it's more actually construction.
Can we talk about a little bit about that?
Okay.
I mean, you mentioned your wife is a businesswoman, and then you have a next phase of ministry. Just give us a little preview.
Oh my goodness!
I want to hear it.
Okay. This is fresh because it's just coming back from Kenya. So, working in the slums of Kenya, I decided there's ways to create affordable housing in Kenya, and so that was been my aim. So that's why we bought land in the slums. And we started construction and to create a way, not simply affordable, but a way for the way I conceive of it is pathways out of poverty. If you look in Scripture, foundation of Scripture that we often forget is that God wants economic freedom. People say, no, that's liberal. No, it's not. Concept of Jubilee is all about economic freedom.
Sure.
So how do we create pathways out of that? So that's been my driving. But now it's actually where God's blowing my mind and He does this. It's this. Actually, I need to buy land in a middle class area. If I do that, I can make $15,000 a month. With not a huge investment. It's large but not huge. It's about $700,000 investment, which is less than a house. Southern California, right?
Yeah, sure.
And you can to get a rent, $15,000 a month.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But then taking that money and reinvesting that in the slums, so that actually it's not U.S. money. We do the initial investment of creating this, but then what that money rotates, not with more money come from the U.S., but actually helping them develop their own system of helping them out of poverty.
Wow. So how long have you been doing that? It's a pretty brand new thing, right?
Yes and no. So it's relatively brand new in Kenya. But I've been involved with homelessness, from seminary. But then even when I came back from Kenya for the past 10, 15 years, working with homelessness here in Southern California, and now going beyond different boards. So I was doing in the affordable housing space, and now I have a nonprofit in Fullerton where we are trying to create housing solutions for all economic levels.
That model could be duplicated like
worldwide.
That's so exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. And I could see how God is working in your ministry. And that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Excited about the next phase of your ministry.
It's mind blowing for me as a pastor educator to go into a purely business phase, but with God's heart.
Sure. And you as a pastor and your wife as a businesswoman working together. Each with different experts. That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you for talking with us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And then maybe it's time when we together, you go deep into your part of your ministry.
That part or many other things. I mean, I haven't shared any of the stories. I mean, I had some fun stories.
Oh, okay. Okay. We'll save that for next time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. So our audience would be expecting, wow, I will wait for the next event, next episode. This is awesome.
Well, I'll just give the review.
Okay.
Third year in Kenya, we got kidnapped and carjacked. Okay. And then 3 years ago, I was in Congo, and I had a platoon of soldiers guarding me.
Wow.
So it's amazing the places God puts you in.
Yeah.
If you're just listening to His voice.
Yeah. Second part will be so much exciting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Ruben.
Thank you very much.
Take care.